more than 12.6 million deaths njalo ngemnyaka. Therefore, the Minister of Health will join the international community in commemorating this day in selected areas in the 4 regions of Eswatini from the 25th to the 28th of September 2023. Environmental health officers will conduct a mass food inspections in the shops, while implementing partners and stakeholders will help stalls for health information dissemination to the public. Samasikumsanane Health Environmental Officer Ndlovu usichazela kabanti ngalama inspections nomhla at 6:30.
Lungelele indzaba besikhulumisa kakhulu evikini leliphelile Dr. Rodney Howard. It was very beautiful to see the attendance there. I did go there myself on Saturday. It was a really spiritual, uplifting experience. Bekumnanzi kakhulu nje bekuhle lokumbona agacumhelwane umbona.
Finally, after all those interviews with Apostle Abednego,
we were the first to interview. Kuba nje nema interview that were leading up to the actual event. Stababona ke labanye nabo betindzaba sebafika mebengcenye batawubika lamuhla bona thina kade sayiqala lenzaba. But nje seselapha ke sibuke ama leading headlines emaphephandzabeni elive.
Sacanga kubuka i-Times of Eswatini lamhlaka ngomsombuluko sibuka nje ihloko leti ihamba embili. Visiting USA evangelist slams same-sex marriages. Once again, asibuka letinye ihamba embili. Division after army police promotions. Claims promotions favored those who were closely with current army commander. Kuletinye thamba embili, only 3 days to go. Kate for Uluyaqala Lulkulu on Friday. Kanti kuletinye thamba embili, how Southern Star accountant stole and blew 7.6 million amalangeni ngusho and also a soldier shoots, kills 3 relatives, burns cars and surrenders.
Konzeke kutemidlalo Times of Eswatini. Kunesithombe lapha sebadlali bebhola lesikhulumisa iLovo FC players celebrating a goal in their 3-1 victory over Green Mamba during the MTN Premier League match that was played Galanga Technical Center esukwini ke la itolo. Kanti ke league returners iLovo Rangers record wins over Green Mamba neYoung Buffaloes. Lenye ke legijima embili yana ngubhuti lovelako lapha longathi ude ngisho mafutha nje lamancane, built like a champ, sweat, sacrifice, success, Barbosa wins big in South Africa. Kanti ke kulenye lehamba embili, Pirates book MTN 8 final sport despite a loss, lokusho ukuthi idliwe 1-0 Stellenbosch FC, but nonetheless they have still booked a spot.
Once again, asibuka iEswatini Observer lomhlaka ngomsombuluko lo lethamba embili ngito letita. Dr. Rodney Brown was in the country for his Holy Ghost and Fire tour. Lapha nje use George Hotel leadership meeting at the George Hotel. Kuletinye lethamba embili, Swazi Farm accuses AG of leaking report. He's alleged to have visited Swazi Farm director's home. As well as EBC threatened us with arrest ngekusho kwebavoti labangu 16. And also another leading story, soldier shoots, kills 3 family members.
Kanzike kutemidlalo, Green Mamba suspend 11 key players. That's the biggest leading story Eswatini Observer Sports this morning. Kanzike sipheketelwa ngise Royal Leopard se outshine iManzini Wanderers ngescore sa 3-1. Eswatini Daily News.
Eswatini Daily News ethamba embili, Eswatini Mobile EMI joined forces to put smiles on Hluti residents. Kanti kuletinye ethamba embili, it was a bloody weekend, 5 killed in nasty road accidents. Soldier goes berserk, opens fire on his family and also kills 3 people.
Kanti kutemidlalo khona kuEswatini Daily News, Leopard cling on to top spot. The police service side needed goals from Bongani Nzimanze, Thokozani Dlamini and Junior Makakula to maintain their 100% league start at the expense of the Wesleyans. Kanti ke ku-English Premier League but EPL star to face Sihlangu. You don't know who that is. Kanti-ke bese kuthiwa Chelsea's wars continue. Chelsea solo kungathi-ke itfola umzaca ku-English Premier League etindzabeni letibuhlungu lomhla ekuseni. Sitawuchubeka netindzaba sibahlole emarket nasibuya sitawuthatha tindzaba talapha ekhaya.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letenteka ngaleso sikhathi tindzaba letide emagama laqosheme letitsembekile letitsinza tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhathi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letiqhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lowutiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Kweleli hlelweni sibukana tindzaba indvuna yelitiko letekuvakasha nemvelo Moses Vilakati ithi kumcoka ukuthi live laseSwatini liqinise ubudlelwane nemave abomakhelwane kude kuthuthuke tekuvakasha. Kanti-ke indvuna beyikhuluma ngesikhathi yemukela libandla lelichamuka kumasipala wasedolobheni laseJozini eNingizimu Afrika.
Libandla lamasipala welidolobha laseJozini ngaphansi kwesifundza saKwaZulu-Natal evende eNingizimu Afrika livakashele indvuna yetiko letekuvakasha nemvelo Moses Vilakati kute ukukhulumisa tindzaba tekutsi kungabanjwisana njani kwakhiwe liheke kulendzawo lesicangco leyatiwa ngele-Cecil Marx Pass lethelelana kulamave lamabili ngendzawo yasensoko nasegolela.
Kungabanjiswana kanjani kulamave lamabili noma ke lamathathu nasesifaka eMozambique? Sitawukhumbula ukuthi idolobha esine-East 3 route lebeyifaka cishe tonke letindzaba. Lena ingilenye lengabuyisa lolo hlelo lobelikhona. Lapha nje kunemgedzelo omkhulu nongala ubona nangale lesukhanza ukuthi ungakha ngathi ivakashi naletinye ke tinto letikhona. Lesibuka ke ukuthi ingaba lusito ukuthi evakasha ibe lusito ukukhuphula umnotho walamave lamabili.
Umchumanisi waleli dolobha laseJozini neSive Delani Mabika uthi imimango leyakhelene nalomncele itawuzuza kakhulu ngalolu hlelo.
Alikho idolobha elikhona lapha elikhulu kulephezulu lapho kuleyandawo. Kodwa idolobha elikhulu eliseduze nabahlali baseJozini kwamathenje womngomezulu nakwanyawo iSwaziland lapha kwamathatha beze bawelele nasembabalo qo. So nanamuhla njengoba ngikhuluma minister ungafika ubone kunemoto ebamba iqueue sengathi kusemthethweni kanti akukho emthethweni.
Indvuna iphindze ithi libandla litawusebenta lolu hlelo lifake ekhatsi litiko letasekhaya nelitiko letangaphandle nekudlelana lamanye emave kanti kutawendiwa nelucwaningo kuvumbulula tindzawo letingemagugu letingakhanga tivakashi kulendzawo. Etindzabeni teEswatini TV kubika Samkelisiwe Khoza ngasimuva Shongwe eMbabane.
Kushone bantfu lababili etigamekweni letimbili letahlukahlukene etindzaweni tekucedza koma kulempelasonto. Munye wabo udutshulwe ngesibhamu umnikati welibhara bese lo munye wagwazwa ngalokucijile ngesikhathi yetama kulamula nakuliwa.
Lesigameko sekugwaza libeka salamu lasenteke endzaweni yaseSoweto embekelweni bese lesekudubula senteke eDaxity eMbabane lungakathanzi kuvela ngekwesabela impilo yakho uchaza kabanti ngalesigameko lesenteke eDaxity eMbabane.
Bahwilitisane kambe nje isikhathi lesithe asuke lo bhuti lo phethelele le box store wasinathi abakhuta bathi sebatawugwaza yena ngoba ufike yena wangena la mkhathisini wathatha labo bafuna umshaya wambeka la mva kwakhe yabo wathi abahayita uthi majamani phela sikhulumeni uyaxolisa masilomo beta-ke bona sebeta sebahlomile sebeta la kulomnikati wale butcher yabo kanti lapha ngathi bekacetha nokukhesha apha vele wasuke lona wakhipha sibhamu sakhe wadubula emoyeni wadubula ncansi kathathu emoyeni solathi yabakhudi ngilakabone khona naye ukuthi labantu abakhudeki laba bayeta sebaphethe lo mnye nje bekaphethe isibhusha ngale ngemuva lona lotala kuye ecaleni uphethe umungu nemikhwa yabo labatelayo akakabi-ke vele acabanga kaningi uvele wamlahla phasi nje kanjalo.
Isikali emchumaniso wesive kanye namaphoyisa noSipho Mnguni ukuvumile kushona kwalaba lababili.
Indvodza lenye leneminyaka lephose ibe ngu-29 yathi izama kulamula yase ithola ukuthi iyagwazeka kuso sona lesigameko ngebhadi-ke leyo ndvodza ibe seseyasishiya emhlabeni. Lesinye isigameko lapho kulahleke umphefumulo khona kusenzaweni yaseMbabane eDark City. Lona-ke lobese uyadubuleka loneminyaka kumbe lengu-30 lengalinganiswa ku-30 na-35 ubese-ke uyalimala kabana waphuthunyiswa khona esibhedlela lapho kuthi namuhla nje ekuseni namhla ngelisonto waseseyasishiya emhlabeni.
Akulokunye Mnguni uvume nendzaba elisotsha lelidubulo elabulala make lomncane walo stepmother kanye nasisi walo lotalwa ngilomake kani kumbulwa kembeso esibhedlela kumnakabo lelisosha naye lelimdubulile lomsakathi utfolile ukuthi lo mndeni bekabanga umhlaba etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla Inakhiyane Msibi siseDark City.
Babe inkulungwane nemakhulu lamabili lababhalisele kuyovota elikhetfweni lolukhethekile special voting. Kanti-ke lokhulumela libandla letelkhetfo nemingcele embonisa ibhembe uthi lukhetfo lolukhethekile litawubanjwa emavuso kanti-ke labatawuvota babheke-ke ukuthi bete netincwadzi letibavumelako ukuthi batawube batovota.
Leli nani lafika ku-1200 webantfu lapho khona libandla belihleli phasi libuka ukuthi nembala tizatfu talabantfu labatibekako kucela ukuthi baye ku-special voting ikakhulu ngoba utawukhumbula ukuthi live lakangwane selendile laveta futhi kuwomhlaba ukuthi ngamhla ka-29 kutoba leholiday tibese-ke libandla liyatinikisa isikhathi ukuthi litawubukisisa leticelo nobe letizatfu tabo lakhanza ukuthi 150 abaphumeleli ukuthi babe nguwona umsebenzi we-special voting. Liyacela-ke libandla ngoba lithi tena litibuka leticelo lakhanza ukuthi labanye banato tinombolo letibakhombako ukuthi babobani kubuyisela imphendvulo kodwa labanye-ke bede letinombolo.
Labangekho eveni-ke lababhalisele ukuvota bona engabe tithini tinombolo?
Linani lingedudlwana kwa-200 licelile ukuthi limikselwe amaphepha ekuvota lende njalo libandla sesibhekile ukuthi kutawuthi ngalomhla ka-26 nga-7 ekuseni kuhlupheke ukuthi tikhathi emagumbi lamane emhlaba atifanani kodwa ngilelo nalelo live lapho khona kutawushaya 7 khona batawuvele bacale kona kuvota ngalokukhethekile special voting kuze kuyoshaya insimbi yesihlanu.
Libandla lelikhetfo kanye nemingcelete inkundla lithi kukhankasa lebekuhlelwe nguleli bandla kuhambe kahle kakhulu kanti-ke lochumanisa lona libandla kanye nesive embonisa ibhembe ubese ukhonkosela kulabanconyelwe etigabeni temalunga ephalamende tindvuna tetinkundla kanye nabobuchopho ukuthi bathi basathi khankasela kute kube ngulesithathu kuleli viki bangacali baphule umtsetfo welikhetfo.
Lesigaba sekukhankasa lokuhleliwe organized campaign kona singatisa umhlaba lokuthi onke lamalunga sekakhonile ukuthi akhankase ngalolokhu uhlelo belungise ngilo libandla lelibuka indzaba telikhetfo nemingcele eSwatini siyabonga ukuthi emakhetfwa avelile nasuwenda lomsebenzi abatisa abantu imicondvo yabo nesive besikhona sitawuthatha letinhlelo sitawubuka futhi ngoba kulomsebenzi lokho ngilapho sesibavivinya khona sihlola ukuthi umuntu ngemuntu nakatithengisa ngumuphi lovakala ingqondo yakhe nenhlitiyo yakhe imanyene nobe ihlangane naso sive ngiloyo-ke lotabe sesothola emavoti lamaningi sikhuthata sive ukuthi ikakhulu laba labasachubeka nekukhankasa ukuthi abachubeke balandzele umthetho loluse bona kusetshenziswa kwemali kanye nemthetho loluse lona lukhetho ikakhulu kakhulu kulesigaba lesibuke kona ukukhankasa ukuthi akube bede umuntu lotaba nelwimi lengwethu akhulume kabi ngalomunye umuntu amgceke nobe asebenzise amagama latiswane ngoba lo msebenzi welukhetho awuketeli ukuhlukanisa sive kepha utosipha ukuthi sihlangane ngengcondo sisive kude ukuthi kule minyaka lesihlanu sikhone kusebenta ngekubambisana sisachubekela phambili.
Lobukete inhlelo ye-Taiwan Medical Mission Amy Liao uthi kuyingcenye yamagoli ahulumende welive le-Taiwan kwesekela hulumende welive lase-Eswatini ekuthuthukiseni tempilo kude-ke sive semaswati siphila impilo lenze nalephephile. Amy Liao bekakhuluma ngesikhathi loluphiko livakashele inkundla yakumthambama kuniketa sive lusito lwetempilo lwamahala.
Emakhulukhulu esive senzawo yaseBeneza ngaphansi kwenkundla yakumthambama ngemgcibelo aphumeyo yothola lusito lwetempilo lwamahala lobe luniketwa libandla labodokotela be-Taiwan Medical Mission lapho lesive siphinze safundziswa khona ngetempilo sahlola netifo letingathathelwana kufaka ekhatsi isifo sashukela nebumcoka bekuhlolela sifo samdlavuza. Umphathi wetinhlelo kuloluphiko le-Taiwan Medical Mission kuleli Amy Liao uthi kusemgomeni wahulumende welive le-Taiwan kubambisa live lase-Eswatini kuthuthukisa tempilo.
We would like to help our friends Eswatini. So the people here are very important for us. So beside that, we also have health education. That means we teach them how to evaluate their health status. So we like to save more lives here.
Sive senzawo yaseBeneza sitibongele kuleli bandla sithi lolu sito belidzinge kakhulu kade ngoba kufinyelela imitfolampilo kulukhuni ngetinkinga letahlukene kufaka ekhatsi kubade imali.
Etibhedlela sekude nemaphilisi kepha namhla sitawuhamba sinenduba kusaka eliphilisi lesitawugojotisa ngalo emakhaya.
Umkhuhlane minengi kangaka ngoba uma uthi uya esibhedlela nyela ngakhazi semaphilisi awuwathole kanti nalapha uma ufikile uyente kuwathole onke amaphilisi. Lokho kulisito kakhulu.
Ngiyakhona kuma ngalombende bangisitile kukhona lo ndawushikisha ngawo bantu abami ngakho siyabonga kakhulu
now 13 rand 15 rand ukuyakahlathi awuye esibhedlela sibona lo ngisuka khashane nje kodwa nje ngiyabonga.
Loluphiko le-Taiwan Medical Mission ngemgcibelo lunikete sive saseBeneza lesingetulu kwamakhulu lamane 489 lusito lwetempilo lwamahala. Etintsabeni ya-Eswatini TV kubika samkeliswe khoza ngasimuva shongwe eBeneza.
Batali basifaka sandla ekutheni lushabalale lulwimi lwesiswati kubantwana. Sihlalo webhodi yesiswati inkhosikati Thandi Khumalo ithi batali abangalithatheli phansi lulwimi lwesiswati lukhulunywe emakhaya nemasiko esiswati bawati.
Sihlalo webhodi yesiswati inkhosikati Thandi Khumalo ithi emakhaya alukhulunywe lulwimi lwesiswati bantwana bafundziswe emasiko nemihambo yesiswati ngoba bantwana selubalahlekele lulwimi lwesiswati.
Lulwimi lwesiswati etikolweni luya ngekusishabalalela ngekusonakalela. Imithelela yaloko yendiwa ukuthi sine sibatali bemaswati noma bantwa bethu sine sibogogo bayitolo bantwa bethu kusuka emakhaya. Umntwana weliswati vele utathi avuka phasi umtali wakhe avuke amkhulumise ngelilwimi lokweboleko. Lo mntwana vele utathi ayofika esikolweni so uthwelele ukuthi ekhaya makwami ufuna ngikhulume ngesingisi.
Inkhosikati ke ichazile ukuthi tabatini letendiwa ibhodi kuqinisekisa ukuthi siswati siyalondoloteka.
Solo sisendleleni yokuthi kuyafuna ukuthi kwakheke i-academy lapho tonke letinto tesiswati titawugcineka khona. Sikhonile nekuphumela sabambisana nemavela bomakhelwane tinyangeni letiphelile besisembombela siyobuka yabo sabo sichaza magama.
Le bhodi ke yasungulwa ngeminyaka wanga-2017 ngenhloso yokulondoloda siswati eveni laseswatini kusukela phansi kulabancane. Lulwimi namasiko ngilenye ngey'tintfo letehlukanisa sive kulesinye sive. Etindzabeni ngimgiyani Msibingi Nasimuva Shongwe na Fortune Dlangamandla sisembekelweni.
Inhlangano lececesha abantu labasha ngetemabhizinisi i-Junior Achievement ngekubambisana nenhlangano Imbeleko Foundation sebacecesha abantu labasha labalishumi ngetemabhizinisi. Ngalesine abantu labasha bekade betfula emabhizinisi abo lesebabonile kutsi bangaphilisa ngawo emphakathini embolonjeni esifundzeni saselibonjeni.
Inhlangano i-Junior Achievement phethile masilela uthi bantfu labasha emphakathi wasembolonjeni bakhombisa inshisekelo yekuba nemabhizinisi abo.
Ukuthi balekeleleke bacale emabhizinisi, so besisolo sende ama-trainings letinyanga letendlulile sebacalile benta i-mentorship basenyangeni yabo yesithathu sidawinda 6 months. Sibheke ukuthi kulo 6 months labamentako for i-mentorship babonke babe banemabhizinisi laranako very fully functional and siwabone akhicita imali lethite bakhone kuthola udlala bakudzingako nalama ama-basic needs labanawo for family.
Inhlangano Imbeleko Foundation le sibonza sayo kuyinkosikati Makela Mashwama ichase lo msebenzi walabantu labasha ngemali lenganga 90,000 wemalangeni. Sihlalo walenhlangano Zandi Nhleko ubeke kanjena.
Sitanani ngami lokho wena wenda njani lokhu kuthola kuphi sitanani ungagodli lwati lwakho naba baka JA kube bebangaligodla lwabo lwati ngabe ninguphi nini enyanga.
Nomfundo Maseko ubongele abantu labasha ngokuthi babe senhlanhleni ekuthola lelithuba lelifana naleli.
Thina now ona le business utitshela ukuthi hayi konke kuyemlonyeni no nyelo sesifundzile tifundise tisite kakhulu sesiyade ukuthi sekufune sibe nemabhuku konke sikurecorda phasi kungena nekuphuma kwemali so kusite kakhulu. We hope through lama business ethu lesitawacala naleli sinawo sitawukhona ukuthi sisite labanye.
Namuhla abantu labasha bekade bethula luhla lwemabhizinisi abo nekuthi batawenda njani kude andlondlobale kuceceshwa kwabo kusachubeka. Umbiko uhlanganiswe ngithembelihle Magutshu ngisembolonjeni emphakathi.
Inhlangano letibita ngasiphilile maternal and child health lenakekela bomake labatetfele ngetidzingo tabo. Ithi itimisele kuchubeka isite bomake labatetfele kude bantfwana batalwe baphilile nabomake babeleke bantfwana labaphilile bakhule kahle. Inhlangano beyicokelela imali tekuyisita ukuthi ichubeke isite etinkhundleni lesebentela kuto. Kanti ke lo msebenzi bewubanjelwe eManzini Club.
Inhlangano Isiphilile Maternal and Healthcare yasungulwa ngeminyaka wa-2012 ngenhloso yokuthi isite make lotetfele asesekuso leso sigaba sokutethwala ngetidzingo latidingako asesetetfele lokufaka ekhatsi ketimali kanjalo-ke nako konke langakudzinga umntwana asengakambeleki nanoma-ke sekambelekile.
Khona bobabe badla khona inhloko bayafundziswa ke bobabe ukuthi sicela ukuthi basupporte bomake mangabe make uya eclinic hamba nawe ungibabe uyokuva ukuthi eclinic kwendekani nangabe umfana mhlambe uyagula hamba nawe ungibabe uya naye eclinic uyobona ukuthi umfana bamsite ngani kuze kutokhona kuye usupporte make in case make sekakhohlwa kunathisa umfana imithi.
Fika kwaSiphilile ngikhonile ukuthi ngiregister certificate tami certificate ngitithole bangilaminate kahle and nalamangweni nje Siphilile kusite kakhulu because labanye bamfana bothola ukuthi abahomi batele nje batalelwe emakhaya
bathi-ke batawuchubeka basebente baphindze banabe nalo-ke live laseswatini banakelele tidzingo tamake kungaba nguloyo lodzingile noma nguloyo-ke lodzinge kunakekelwa lokufaka ekhatsi-ke nabo-counseling nalokuyi etizabeni ngingigiyani emsibeni nasimuva shongwe eManzini Club.
Umqeqeshi welicembu le-Royal Leopard Edwin Mathebula uthi noma licembu lakhe selingcobe imidlalo lemibili kulemibili kodwa lisengakadlali ngendlela lafise lidlale ngayo. Mathebula bekakhuluma ngemuva kokuthi licembu lincobe kuManzini Wanderers emidlalweni we-MTN Premier League lodlalelwe enkundleni ye-Prince of Wales eMbabane.
Imidlalo ye-MTN Premier League ichubekile ngelisomvo kanzi enkundleni ye-Prince of Wales eMbabane bekuthola nelicembu leManzini Wanderers kanye nelicembu le-Royal Leopard. I-Royal Leopard esigabeni sekucala idlale kahle njengoba kuyiwe ekhefini ihamba embili ngamagoli amabili ecenzeni. Esigabeni sesibili itamile kubuya yona uManzini Wanderers ethola igoli lekucala lomdlalo kodwa ke i-Royal Leopard ibuyile yathola igoli lesithathu. Umdlalo uphele ihamba embili yona i-Royal Leopard amagoli amathathu kulinye. Ngemuva kwalomdlalo baqeqeshi balamaqembu lamabili babeke kanjena.
No, isengabadlala kanjani ngifisa ukuthi idlala ngayo. Problem lekhona ngilokuthi there is too many injuries kulabadlali. Because na junior nje ungena muva is from injury. Uqala ukujima this week. Otherwise isengakafiki khona la. And you cannot catch a team when I'm a game lamabili. Akhona lokufuna uyigeje ngawo. And still coming.
Nekuthi ke le team isaza kuhlangana sengabonakala baba ukuthi bani vele ungcono kubani. Kodwa ke ngiyabonga ukuthi badlalile except ukuthi emagoli amaningi cha ukuthi sidlala amabili goalkeeper ufakile la isandla.
Kanti kuleminye imidlalo ledlaliwe licembu le-Illovo lukhwelela tehlela kulabavikela lenzebe iGreen Mamba ngamagoli 3-1. iRangers yanqoba kuYoung Buffaloes ngamagoli 2-1. Singezi noSpurs edlala ngekulingana neManzini Seabirds ngaligoli 1-1. Lobiyela umsakade Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini eMbabane.
Kwela muhle asibuke nasi isimo selitulo sitawubuya siqhubeka nelihlelo.
Ngeke ngikuvotele bese unginiketa 200 emalangeni. Hayi ngeke akungekulunga.
Liphalishe iqiniso siyalifuna kepha kube kuyangami ngabe sawukhetha nababantu labatawuletha lushinjo balethe inguquko umuntu lotawuthi bantu labasha mango wakithi manifuna kuphila manifuna liphalishe nakule kufunani kweni hayi ukuthi umuntu utasinika liphalishe utasinika mase kangenile sitawusala sibe yini
Ezehle ushaya yona wena sibamvu labasha mhla ka29 asambeni siyawucedzela naku lesakuqala siphume ngetinkhani siphelele simake sure ukuthi siyavota
umango wonke sambeni kuma secondary elections sikhethe nangumuntu wenhlitiyo yethu masingakhetha kahle singabe singcobile mngane
hayi la basinike amapalishi bani labatasifundisa ukuthi lipalishi
ulakanje njani uqisile mngane
yemngane amasambe Nkosi yami nayi nale khumbi yasemphakathi seyifikile
Ibandla letelukhetho nemincele Elections and Boundaries Commission bathi sasive ukuthi kuvota ngalokukhetsekile special voting kutawuba mhla tinge-26 kulesetulu 26 September 2023 kanti lukhetho lolukhulu lona lutawubanjwa mhla tinge-29 kulesetulu 29 September 2023 ngete ngasala nasakha live lethu.
Simze sinimukele sakuvusela nawo losandza kusivule lapho sivedele ukuthi sitabe sikhulumana labasuka etiko letempilo nge-World Environment Health Day, which is celebrated every year on the 26th of September. Lilanga ke leli lasungulwa ngomnyaka wa 2011 by the International Federation of Environmental Health to highlight the importance of caring for environmental health. Ngekusho ke konhlangana kamhlaba etempilo i-World Health Organization umbiko wa 2016 global environmental issues account for more than 12.6 million deaths each year. The Minister of Health will join the international community in commemorating this day in selected areas lapha Eswatini in the 4 regions from the 25th of 28th September 2023. Utokwenda lokho ngekuthi kube ne mass food inspection etitolo letihlukahlukene, while implementing partners and stakeholders will have stalls for health information dissemination to the public as the day progresses. I'm joined by Environmental Health Officer Mandla Ndlovu losuka khona itiko kuchazela kabanti nje ngalolu suku kanye nema inspections letawuchubeka lacala khona lamuhla atawuphetha ngalesine this week. Good morning. Asikuvusele baba Ndlovu siyabonga nathi lomhla. I think topic lebalekile kakhulu lena ngalokuthi vele tindzaba letibalekile leti tekuhloba tekhambisa kakhulu kade kuhloba embili. Kuma nje singangeni ko lama inspections ngoba sivile lokuthi vele niyaqala namuhla ama inspections lataba nje ay intense in the 4 regions. Nasibuka nje mhlambe emuva World Environmental Health Day lokuthi lilanga leli kuja mhlaba wonke kubalekile ukuthi sithambise embili tindzaba tekuphepha noma tekuhloba. Kube kusinetha nje sithoma just a background on this day. Why is it commemorated?
Siyabonga kakhulu msakati sivusele esiveni sibonga lelithuba ukuthi site lapha sitochaza ngalo umsebenzi lomkhulu nakangaka le kuyi World Environmental Health Day le celebratewa every on the 26th September yonke iminyaka. Sicabanga ukuthi ke imcoka kakhulu kubuka kwekutheni kuvikela imvelo netempilo kudzala nasibuka njena ukuthi i-public health inzala kanganani lapho sisabitwa khona ukuthi ngema-sanitarian kwathiwa ngema-sanitary inspector. Loko bekubukeke kwekuthenini naku kunekugula lokukhona kubangwa yini, kwabe sekuyabonakala ukuthi naku kunekhona le mvelo lapha inganakakeli khona. Kwabe sekuthatha ke dinyathelo ukuthi akusale kuba nale umthetho waka public health wasunguleka ke kwaba nalama sanitarians ke kwaya ngekuhamba ke kwabe sekubuka ukuthi letifo phela leti tiyaphathelana nemvelo. Asesinake lokuthi letifo lemvelo siyiphatha njani kuze ukuthi sive siphephe timpilo tiphephe. Nembala ke kwabese ke sekuyahlanganiswa ke sekuba ke nale environmental health ke sinakhumbula nje nale environmental health iyaqala le yona abona 1930 ke phale public health yona ile muva kakhulu bo 17th century nje khona le muva. Kephana ke siya ngekuya ke ngekuthuthuka kunakane temvelo kugcina ke sesiyabuka ke ukuthi la eSwatini cishe nje environmental health ifike kubo 1970. Lokusho ukuthi ke ngikungako ke nathi sonke silive sitimbanzana ngoba lokukhulu kakhulu sihlose ukuthi kulo gubha kwalelisuku sithi wonke umuntu akasukume anake namakhelwane wakhe amvikele kuleti tindzaba letithinta tifo nemvelo. Lokusho ukuthi sonke asiphephise lemvelo kuze ukuthi sitophepheka sonke siphephe tifeni letithathela nako ngetemvelo. Lokusho ukuthi lokunye lesingakusho ukuthi siyanaka imvamisa umsebenzi lophathelene nekuvikela uvama kunganakekeli kakhulu imiphumela yakhona. Ukhanze ukuthi lo muntu unakwa lapho nasagula ngilapho ke sekunaka ukuthi lumso uyagula kepha lo msebenzi lama efforts kusuka lemva ukuthi ngidakufundisa nje ukuthi ugeza tandla into letinganakeki lokuvama kunakeka ngilokuthi soyagula songuneta liphilisi lo msebenzi loyo uyanakeka kanzi lokukhulu ngilokuthi lesihlale sifundisa ngathi ukuthi yakha umthoyi lo mthoyi unemphumela lomuhle ngoba ekugcineni kwako konke tonke letifo letithathelana lefana nemisheko bokholera tivikeleka lapha kulendlela encane. Labanye ke baye bawuthathe kancane umthoyi bathi ya umthoyi nginaba labantu bemthoyi yabona kanti abati lokuthi lapha sizama lokuthi sivikele sive nasithi yakhana imithoyi sitawubona nje sitawukhumbula nje lokuthi ingwenyama ibeyise United Nations yakhuluma ngokuthi siphumelele kanganani silive kuletindzaba takawash water and sanitation sikhuthata ke nokuthi sengazuthi vele nelive ikakhulu uhulumende angafaka umfutho kusekela engwenyama ukuthi the next year nakaphinza buyela kulena mihlangano akhulume inkulumo lesetulu kunalo kubona nyalo bona live lisebenzile sibonga uhulumende ukuthi usebenze kodwa nakusafuna ukuthi kufakwe umfutho kakhulu kuletindzaba taka water and sanitation ukuze ukuthi imvelo igcine ingilehlandekile nebantu bangaguliswa into leti singativikela silive. Lokunye ke lesingakusho ukuthi siye sinake kakhulu emave investe kakhulu kulokwelapha kanti lokukhulu kakhulu kubuka letifo lokuthi nati letifo tibangwa yini asesitivikele sesibone ukuthi kutawona singaphike kuthenga emaphilisi nako konke sikhanze ukuthi sesine lamanye expire ngalokuthi sicale ngalokungasikho kanti kufuna ukuthi sibuke letifo bokholera nje na ukhuluma ngekholera kufuna ubuke lokuthi indzaba yaka sanitation umthoyi lokusho ukuthi ke uhulumende vele kufuna ba investe kakhulu ekunakekeleni imvelo lokho kutasisita lokho ukuthi siphephe sonke singemaswati nelive lonke nyalo ke siyakhumbula nokuthi lukhetho nyalo iBC njena wemkhulumeli wakhe ukhulume kakhulu ukuthi phela asekukhulunywe ngalete temvelo nako lokunye na ufika lapha eParliament asowusekele lo tindzaba tekuphepha tekuvikela kungaphike ukuthi ngaso sonke isikhathi nakulapha kukhulunywa ngekuthenga imithi yebo imithi ayithengwe nangabe sowugula kepha lokukhulu ngilokunaka lemvelo ukuthi iphephile yini labakhethi labatawuvela nje beParliament asebashukumise ukuthi asekungedwe letimali lapha kula ka water and sanitation la kulete kuvikela kungaphike ukuthi kukhulunywa ngema-drugs asi nje nyalo kuphela ema-drugs kanti ibe besivikela ngabe bekudinga impilo beyitaba ngcono bantu bebatawuphepha kumbe ngeva ukuthi
ngifuna siselapho nje kulendzaba yawash le water and sanitation ngifuna sikhulume nje ngayo environmental health babendlovu etikhathini te-COVID sitakhumbula ukuthi vele nakhona sibonile bumcoka be-environmental health kuleto tikhathi te-COVID ngalokuthi vele umlayito benuhambisa embili indzaba yokuthi vele asikeze ntandla konke akuhlobe nisaya nje letitolo lomuhla lani yakhona I think siyabona nje bumcoka bekugeza tona mhlambe kugeza tandla because ngetikhathi te-COVID kwayona le COVID bayisala la kule timvu lotitsintsake esitolo uyathenga ngifuna nje sikhuluma ngalo bomcuka nje ukuthi vele bekubale kangakanani nje ngale tikhathi leta ukuthi vele sitigezele tandla sinekuthi konke kuhlobile etitolo.
Siyabonga kakhulu futhi ukhuluma kahle bekubaluleke kanganani inkulumo ke lesingayisho sithi kubaluleke kanganani ngoba bekungasiko lokuthi ngumsebenzi wangaleso sikhathi seCovid ngilokukhuthadwako ukuthi asikwende singayekeli manje naso ubuka nyalo lelizinga nawungena lapha nalapha sekuyekelwe kanti phela lokhu bekusita lokuthi lamagciwane lalatandleni kakangafiki kithi le COVID nje ngiko beyivikeleka ngokuthi sigeze itandla lapho kuningi bese kunyamalala imisheko nje tibalo bonaka lokuthi bese yehlile imisheko kepha isibonile ukuthi emva kweCovid kube sesekuyacala manje sekuya imisheko seyakhula ngileni sesiyekele lokhu basic lekufanele sikwende ukuthi na ungena noma ngangikuphi esitolo ungakathinzi ukugeza tandla ngikole sikhuthadako lelo vangeli letiningi ke tale tifo leti tibonakele ukuthi ya tiyathinselana ne-environment noma nekungahlandeki lokusho ukuthi into leti lesingatilungisa silive ukuthi sitivikele leto tifo.
Nje babendlovu kune-report la leya 2016 leyachaza khona nje WHO ngayo environmental health ukuthi according to the report, more than 100 illnesses kanye nama-injuries nje can be linked to environmental health issues. Ngavela mhlambe letifo letifaya ekhathi sona sifo semsheko nabo labo cholera ngitiphe nje letinye mhlambe tifo lokhanza ukuthi vele tiba linked nako kungcola.
Kulethi lotubalile nje kukhona leti bangwa ikakhulu imisebe elanga ikakhulu nabo abo ozone nasilimata imvelo kanze ukuthi sesishisa noma tibi tethukabi ngoba kukhona le tibi lekufanele singadishisi lethu kanze ukuthi lo moya bese uyolimeta lidwadwazi kanjalo ke sihlale sikushumayela naloko ukuthi asesilungise sibambisane silive silandzele lemigomo yakamhlaba lesishoko ukuthi sifuna sitiphathe kanjani. Kukhona na letinye tifo lekhanza ukuthi tibangwa ingilemi timfuthu leti bese setithuke sesiyahosha thina sesiba netifo temaphaphu tonke leto tinto letinye ke sitithola nala misebentini lokhanza ukuthi la ngekhathi la usebentela khona kumbe usebenta ngetinvuli uthuka ukhanza ukuthi awukayinakekeli lendlela yekusebenta ukuthi kufuna kumbe bo ventilation noma kuphuma kwalo moya lo sengqolele ungaphuma kanjani. Ngito ke letifo letinye sitithola ngisho nasemayini nawuyomba nakula kumbiwa khona bo coal nako konke letitsinza khona emaphashini nabo TB konke leto tifo leti ngatibala ngatigcini emsakati sesibali nemisheko nganyalo nje nabo rotavirus labakhona ngito letifo leti hambisana nalokungahlandeki ukhanza ukuthi asitigezi kahle tandla. Kukhona ke lokunye na ungakabeki kahle kuhle ukugcine kahle ukhanze ukuthi sekubanana umswakama sekuyakhunza sekubangana lokuthiwa ngema-aflatoxins labo poison labo na ukudla lokudla kugcine ngidawuthini kungeteteleka la kwanza la mtimbeni kubanga bona labo cancer. Ngito ke tone tinto leti lekugula kadzeni ke sitawukhumbula ukuthi nalo magundwane nangabe nje indzawo yakho ingakahlandeki kahle ibanga lokuthi emagundwane abe khona siyakhumbula ekhasitakazeni bekunabo plague la thuthwa yini sifo lesita nala magundwane lokusho ukuthi netimbuzilwane bo malaria nangabe kusho ukuthi le ndzawo awukayibeki kahle noma ke ineti indzawo letenda ukuthi lo malaria anze bese kunetikotela tibekeke kabi tinemanti seyakhona ke malaria ukuthi afukamele lapho madudane ngoko nje sikhuthata ukuthi la macenzelweni kwelikhaya akube indzawo lehlandekile netibi tilahleke ngendlela lephephile tikotela timonqote kahle tingatokhongetele mandi ukhanze usitimbuzilwane setiyanza tithola indzawo yekuhlala tanzisa bo malaria tiningi nje letifo ngiyabala nje.
Okay, ukhulume ngekudla kubekwa kokudla ukuthi nasokubeka isikhathi leside kube sekubanga mhlambe different fire cut i-cancer ngabe vele mhlambe nangikubeka nje vele ngibeke isefridge kumele ngikubeke emalanga lamangaki ngiyacana sengikubeka emalanga lamangaki nje ku-unsafe nasekuhlele efridge emalanga lamangaki.
Siyabonga kakhulu lokhu kahle ukuthi labakhiciti balokudla bayakubhala la ngaphandle ukuthi kufuna ukuthi ukusebenzisa isikhathi lesinganani. Ema-tin staff njena avama kusiniketa isikhathi leside bese kuthi khona lokhu nema-proteins kakhulu noma lokusheshe bese kuyonakala nako kunesikhathi lesifishane uyukhanze ukuthi abantu bese bakubeka isikhathi leside gcine kona lokudla sekonakala kephana kakhulu lokubanga letifo ngilapho khona ukhanze ukuthi sekungenela amagciwane ukuvulile lento wabese ukuthi nale fridge yangashisi ngaleli zinga lelifanele noma wakhipha la fridge wakubeka kufane inkukhu nje inkukhu nayo ikhipha efridge wayibeka lapha ngaphandle awuyibeka isikhathi eside kukhona lokuthi manje ngidakuthi ngeswathi kuyitowisha ukuthi bayadi bomake lokutowisha lokuyincibilikisa kuthi kunendlela yakhona kuze kuthi ngoba emagciwane ayakuthanda tindzaba tinto efana nabo tinkukhu nabo pholoni naso kubeke kakhulu la ngapha bese sekuyasonzela dathi ke naso ukudla ukhanza ukuthi sodla ukudla lokunakhuzana lokunemagciwane nala matikotela ke nakuhlolwa la kufuna tibe tikotela letingakamonqoki ngoba nato tiyakungenisa ukuthi letinye tikhanze nje ticumbile nakhona lapho kusuke sekunalo sekunetifo noma poison labathide la ngekhathi sikuthatha ukuthi abantu bangakudli izinto letinjalo diningi letinto lesitihlolako ukuthi siphephise sive ukuthi tingakudli kumbe okunye lengingakusho nje lapho ngathi kweyama lekusele lwimini kuletindzaba sanitation siyanaka lokuthi noma live lisebenta livele lesikhuluma ngalo letindzaba sanitation nasibuka nje sanitation coverage la Eswatini seku 58%. Lokusho ukuthi sona sente kahle kephana ke kusafuna vele lokuthi umfutho siufake ikakhulu ngingoje bengithide hulumende nakangafaka umfutho kuletindzaba sanitation sithuthuke sitoba at least embili itindzaba tekuhlandeka.
Okay, yasise lapho nje indzabeni sanitation. So namhla niyaqala babendlovu ngala inspections njengoba nisivedile nje ku-intro ukuthi indaba enivakashela vele tonke tifunza deliver nesiciniseko sokuthi titolo nema restaurants mhlambe aseva samaswati ukudla lokuphephile nalokuhlobile. Nitawenda kanjani nje lama inspections nicala kuphi this week?
Siyabonga kakhulu kushothi namuhla nje emabombo onke abheleke eshiselweni kodwa lokumcoka kakhulu ngiloku uhambisa lolwadi ngoba sifuna lokuthi umuntu aguqulwe ingqondo yakhe bese sobuka into ngalamanye emehlo lokushothi nje naso ubuka ngale emehlo utawuthi na ubuka lapha kungcolile liphepha ulibuthe wena na uthi ungena esitolo ubuka lokungalungi usheshe kube nguwe lokubona ukuthi lokwakulungi ungaze ukuthi uze upota lokushothi sitawuqala kahlathi usihambise leyo mlayeto sitabeke sinala manye tinhlango sitaka Minister of Health letabe tikanekisile lapha kunaleti tendi takhona lapho utawuthola khona ma messages namaningi latakusita ukuthi uphume lapho so ngilongcono engqondweni noma so ibuka ngalamanye emehlo environment ukuthi ingilehlandekile noma cha lokushothi ke sonke asiwabhekise emabombo lapha ekahlathi sitolalela sifunze ngoba bathi knowledge is power ngiko lokutawusenda level thuthuke ngekuthi sesinalo lolwati lekuthi thuthukisa ngempilo.
So kuba yini mhlambe ama findings enu nisavakashela nje letitolo ngoba ngiyakholelwa ukuthi akusikwaqala niwendela ama inspections ingabe yini leneni ikhanze mhlambe etitolo kuma restaurants netitolo nje lethengisa ukudla nasibuke kona kuhlobo lizinga lekuhlobo.
Siyabonga kakhulu lesiye sikukhanze nasihlola nje na kuningi kakhulu asangibekise nje kulabanye uyukhanza ukuthi kude nje umthoyi bese soyamangala ukuthi okay now phela utowudlala nakufuna kuphinze kuphume lokudlile lokushothi lo mthoyi kufuna ube khona abantu ke bamangala ukuthi nasifuna umthoyi one phela vele kuyadliwa kufuna kuphume lokho nalo mthoyi akusumthoyi nje kufuna kube ngumthoyi lohlandekile losezingeni lelifanele leyo ndzawo yekusebenzela siyakubunaka ke lokho sinake ukuthi emandi akhona yini asifuni lokuthi emandi abe ngilamanye la bhebhetela kwanza kwetifo ngoba kukhona letifo lethambisana ngemandi kanjalo ukuthi kukhona letifo lethambisana ukuthi utelo umthoyi lokushothi kunetifo lapho bese kuba futhi lesiye sikunake ngilokuthi so nale structure noma le ndlu la usebenzela kuyo iphephe kanganani, ihlandeke kanganani, ipendekile ukuthi phela kubonakala ukuthi kuhlala kudla la. Kude tibonza atikagatukini ukhanze ukuthi ngekugaduka kwato tivumela ukuthi kube netilokatane letitawuthatha tifo titise etikwise ekudleni kufana nemaphela nemagundwane. Kungako siye sithi kungabi khona timfa noma tikhala ativale nemalulwane nje siye singafuni ukuthi abe khona konke letinto letihambisa tifo ngiko sithi asinakekele lemvelo sonke sikanye kanye ukuze singatokwanzisa le. Lokunye ke ngilokunaka nje kwekuthi tibi utilahla njani, utigcila njani kule la usebenza khona, utilahle njani ngoba kufuna ukuthi ungabe seso uba tibitilahla ngebudlapha naloko futhi nathi ungakatilahle kahle tanza ukuthi tipepetela kona lokuthi letilokatane leti tite titohlala bese tanzisa lokugula lesikhulume ngako.
Leloko ukuthi nje tisebenza mhlawumbe letisebenza ekitchen nato tigcoke kanjani kwananato nje leti la ukuthi tigcoke kanjani ingabe nako lokho niyakubona yini kuyenteka imvelo especially kulama restaurants noma letitolo lesithengisa kudla.
Kuliye kakhulu lesiye sekunake enaso sikubakhuthathe kakhulu abantu ukuthi phela naso usebenza ekudleni kufuna ube ngilohlandekile phela lapha na ungiphakela kudla nje nami ngiyakubuka ukuthi okay kuhle lokudla kepha kuphuma kumuntu lonjani nangabe nje utawukhanza ukuthi lo muntu akakafaki nalabo bo head net lapha enhloko kumbe ugcoke impahla letingcolile tingalo takhe tinze tingcolile ngoba kunemthetho ke lo shoko ukuthi umuntu losebenza kuletitolo leti kufuna ukuthi abe netingalo letinjani atiphathe njani noma ke ngiyabekisa uthengisa inyama le fryiwe kepha lo muntu sotambona anasilonza uyabona ukuthi lokho kuna siyehlala sibafundzisa ukuthi bantu laba kanje kufuna noma unemkhuhlane lo muntu uyakhwehlela kodwa ukulethela kudla utakudla uthini sibuya covid nyalo asathembani kahle ukuthi uphetheni lokushothi ke ngiloko lesiye sekunake kakhulu nekuthi testa ke ngoba siye sithi ke every 6 months now usebenza ekudleni hamba uyoti testa kule tifo letibonakala ukuthi hambisana nekudla kufana bomsheko letinto leto ukhanza ukuthi umuntu lohlandeke lolungele ukuthi ungasebenza kuleyo ndzawo lokushothi ke nje lokukhulu kakhulu lesikuthathako nokuvikela tifo.
Okay kwagcina nje Ndlovu ingabe sifuna ukuvunjela ukuthi vele uma ngabe ningakhanzi konke lokho kuletitolo nalama restaurants kube sokuba yini ifine yaloyo owner walesitolo nekuva nje ukuthi ngabe ndokunamhlanje eshiselweni ngabe lesibili lesithathu funa lesine nedaba yokuthi iphithi indzawo.
Siyabonga sakade sibonge nisive ngalokuthi lokuhamba embili kithi akusiko lokubopha sinayo lemithetho lesiyisebenzisako lesigunyada ukuthi nasikhanza kunjena sine sihambisa kakhulu lokufundzisa sive njengoba senda nje sinethemba ukuthi nasihamba kuleti godzi letifunza bantu batawufunza siyakunika lesikhathi lesenele ukuthi siphiwe ukuvasha kuba khona netincwadi lesiye sikubhalela tona ukuthi lungisa naku siphinda sibe nema notices lesiwabhalako nasibona usola ukhona sithi lungisa naku sikunikete lesikhathi siye ngekwencipha ke lesikhathi bese sesiyahamba ke nanathi sesiyongqongqotha le bo magistrate ukuthi awu sesehlulene nanamuntu maye sesimncengile nathi tincwadi solo sincengana naye akafuni ukuthi kuvike kubambisana nelive kufikela tifo bese ke sesiya yaphendula ke ele ka magistrate ukuthi le wena wekunene lokushothi ke sitabe sihamba ke njengoba nje namhla emabombo abheke kahlathi eshiselweni kutawuthi ke mhla ka 26 bese siya kuphi lapha siya elibonjeni sidabeke lapho sikanekise esiphofaneni bese ke mhla ka 27 sikahoho siya ebuhleni bese ke lekugcina 28 sika Manzini siya eluve lokusho ukuthi nguloyo umsebenzi lomkhulu lesitabe siwenda sitawucela nje lokuthi sibambisane kakhulu nesive sibonge nalama partners ke la sisekele kulomsebenzi kakhulu WHO na UNICEF ngoba bayawadi lo msebenzi bayadi ukuthi kufanele basisekele ngoba bayawadi umlando wa environmental health uthi usukaphi sengathi ke nelive ikakhulu Ministry of Health ngoba sikhona khona sinesilihawu lapha eMinistry of Health ngibona la bathembe ethine ukuthi sitawuvikela manje ke vele njengoba ngishilo lama efforts ngeke wabone nangabe uvikela utawubonakala lapho sowulele phansi ukuthi so seyiphunyulile kuleli hawu seyishayekile
no ngiyavakala sibakhulu Ndlovu mbukeli sothi vele ukuthi litiko letempilo lomhla licala ngema-food inspections esifundzeni saseshiselweni kodwa bebakanekise nje kahlathi kanti ayaphetha ngalesine kuleli viki sibahlolete emakethe sitawubuya sicubeke nehlelo.
Bongosi egameni lelibandla letelkhetho nemingcele tingudla ngingusihlalo walo libandla sihlanganyela nesive malangeni lamahle kuhalalisela ingwenyama inkosi yethu inkosi Mswati wesithathu minyakeni lamashumi lasihlanu nakuhlanu kanye nelive longana kundiphethe wethu ukuthi lo lingana nabo netinsuku tengwenyama letingu 55 nananathi sisive seMaswati sina leminyaka ilengu 55 sesikhululekile ngandiphethe. Siyabonga ke bongosi sisahalalisele emakhosi ethu nelive ukuthi nebayitolo lekungibona lesithite basebenta lelive makhosi ayitolo nesive seMaswati sonke sayitolo ngoba lokhu lesesifike lamhla siyasakukhanza lesikuhalaliselako ngilokuchamuka kibo lekubita ke ukuthi ke nathi siMaswati njengekukhonjwa indlela amakhosi ngosi yelive sichubekeni silibeke live libe ngiloko lekungona lesikukhanzile nathi nalokungcono Maswati silibandla lelikhetho nemingcele sisahalalisele amakhosi nelive ngandiphethe sijinga siphinze futhi siwabongele amakhosi ngemsebenzi losetulo eveni welikhetho sisitengcile tigaba tokuqala lebesikito nyalo ke sekuseleke sigaba lesesisetulo ke yokungisona sona ke lesisitawu siniketa iparlamente yethu isinikete futhi emabandla enkundla lokuba ubuchopho ke lobakhiwa induna tetinkundla lekungibona bosihlalo bese ke nabobuchopho bemiphakathi benkundla labakha lobuchopho lelibandla lenkundla lekungilona lelisebenzisana kanye neparlamente nahulumende welive leMaswati wonkana bongosi emalanga umuntu akandlulise lokuthi umhla ka 2026 we special voting bese ulandzela ke umhla ka 29 September walolukhetho lelukhulu lukhetho lesibili lesongilona loluyifinal ngalawo magama amalangeni sikhutha lwandle sibongele live lebongosi bayethe bona waphakathi bona ungangezindaba bos
ngeke ngikuvotele bese unginiketa 200 emalangeni hayi ngeke akungelula
liphalishe liqiniso siyalifuna kepha kube kuyangami ngabe sawukhetha nababantu labatawuletha lushinjo balethe inguquko umuntu lotawuthi bantu labasha mango wakithi manifuna kuphila manifuna liphalishe naku lekufuna kwenu hayi ukuthi umuntu utasinika liphalishe utasinika masekangenile sitawusala sibe yini
Ezehle ushaya yona wena sibamvu labasha mhla ka29 asambeni siyowucedzela naku lesakucala siphume ngetinkhani siphelele simake sure ukuthi siyavota
umango wonke sambeni kuma secondary elections sikhethe nangumuntu wenhlitiyo yethu masingakhetha kahle singabe singcobile mngani
hayi laba sinike amapalishi bani labatasifundisa ukuthi lipalishi
uletha njani uqisile mngani
yemngani amasambe nkosiyami nayi nale khumbi yasemphakathi seyifikile
Welcome back. Let's take a look at international news. 2 people died and 5 were wounded on Thursday after shelling fired on northern Malian city of Timbuktu, the army said, a month and a half into a jihadist blockade on the area.
It started with a declaration of war in the Timbuktu region, announced early August through audio messages by the Al-Qaeda jihadist alliance known as the Support Group for Islam and Muslims. Over a month later, it's clear that it was more than an intimidation tactic. Mali's military says 2 people were killed and 5 injured in shelling on Thursday afternoon. The town has been under siege for weeks, inhabitants are cut off from the rest of the world, and basic goods are in short supply.
The market is really struggling at the moment. If this continues, a lot of shops are going to have to close. Because if basic goods don't come in, like oil, milk, sugar or rice, it's going to be very hard on the population.
The Niger River that flows a few kilometres south of Timbuktu was once a vital artery linking the city to other towns. But an attack on a ferry early this month that killed dozens of people has put an end to any transport along that route. Meanwhile, Sky Mali, the only airline to still fly planes to Timbuktu, cancelled its flights after a shell attack not far from the airport.
Today, we can really say that the situation is unbearable. The people of Timbuktu are suffering. This is a real cry from the heart.
Jihadist forces are strengthening their grip on rural areas. And they're not alone. The withdrawal of French troops and UN missions has also revived the threat of an offensive led by Tuareg and Arab separatist groups.
Ukraine's president on Thursday wrapped up his U.S. public relations blitz for military support and for his 10-point peace plan with meetings on Capitol Hill, at the Pentagon and in the Oval Office with President Joe Biden.
Ukraine's counteroffensive is moving inch by painful inch to try to reclaim Russian-held territory. But the public relations blitz, led by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, is tearing its way from the United Nations in New York, where he appealed to the global community to embrace his peace plan, to Capitol Hill, where he appealed to legislators for $24 billion in aid to support the war effort, to the Pentagon, where military officials reaffirmed their support, and from there to the biggest stage of all, the White House. He held his 6th in-person meeting with President Joe Biden on Thursday.
And together with our partners and allies, the American people are determined to see to it that you do all we can to ensure the world stands with you, and that is our overwhelming objective.
Today I'm in Washington to strengthen our coalition to defend Ukrainian children, our families, our homes, freedom and democracy in the world. And I started my day in the U.S. Congress to thank its members and to people of America for all the big, huge support.
This trip to a capital thousands of miles from the front matters, analysts say.
What Biden is doing by giving Zelenskyy this platform is saying this issue matters to us. This U.S. national interests are on the line here. And so we need to be paying attention to what Zelenskyy is saying and the requests that the Ukrainians are making.
On Thursday, Biden announced a new package of military assistance that includes air defense capabilities and artillery. VOA asked the administration if they fully support Zelensky's 10-point peace plan, which he has been shopping to world leaders for nearly a year.
Each of the individual elements of the peace plan, if you sat one of them down, sovereignty and territorial integrity, food security, ecological security, nuclear safety, to us, it's not even a question whether we agree. Of course we do. These are just basic principles of the international system. They're consistent with the UN Charter, and we have said that President Zelensky's vision for a just peace is fully consistent with the United Nations Charter and with kind of decency and common humanity.
But before there can be peace, Biden is asking Congress for $24 billion to fund Ukraine's war effort. On Thursday, Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy remained noncommittal, but members of his party expressed support.
They need it, and they're going to get it. I said, the majority support this. I know there's some dissension on both sides, but I said a war of attrition is not going to win this. And that's what Putin wants, because he wants to break the will of the American people and the Europeans. We can't afford a war of attrition. We need a plan for victory, and we need to do it soon.
That urgent question is something that resonates. From the ornate surroundings of the West Wing to the wasted wreckage that Ukrainians used to call home. How much longer can this go on?
Hundreds of people waving European Union flags on Saturday rallied in central London, calling for Britain to rejoin the bloc.
7 years after the United Kingdom voted for Brexit, protesters are still taking to the streets. Around 1,000 people gathered in central London on Saturday, demanding that their country rejoins the European Union.
Brexit has been an economic disaster for the UK, and the loss of freedom of movement has impacted a lot of people. The loss of things like Erasmus. I think we're better off together.
A sea of EU flags culminated outside the British Parliament, where prominent anti-Brexit campaigners gave speeches, including former Belgian Prime Minister Guy Verhofstadt.
The UK will rejoin the EU. It's not a matter of if, but when.
In June 2016, the UK voted by a small margin in favour of leaving the EU. After years of fraught negotiations, London formally left the bloc on the 31st of January 2020. Demonstrators here are not giving up hope. Their motivation, several polls over the past year that have found that around 60% of the population support rejoining the EU.
You've heard the statistics, the number of people that want to rejoin, and it's young people that want to rejoin.
A change in public mood that isn't reflected in UK politics for now. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak voted for Brexit and stands by his stance. While Labour Party leader Keir Starmer said he would seek a better Brexit deal, but not rejoin the EU.
The US government is less than 1 week away from a shutdown if the Republican-controlled House of Representatives can't coalesce around a dozen spending bills that have so far divided the party.
In less than 1 week, the U.S. government will shut down if Congress can't come to agreements on spending bills that have so far exposed divisions within the Republican Party. A group of ultra-right-wing conservatives has threatened mutiny against and the ouster of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy following a spending compromise between him and President Joe Biden earlier this year to avoid defaulting on the nation's debt.
This is because Republicans on the Hill can't even agree among themselves. And remember, Kevin McCarthy and Speaker McCarthy and President Biden made a deal. And that deal was tough for all sides. Frankly, it was tough for our department. It meant cutting back on some things we wanted to do, some funds we were going to use to improve roads and bridges and airports. But we accepted that because that was the deal that was made earlier this year. And now all we're doing is asking them to live up to that deal.
That same group of Republicans who are members of the controlling party in the House of Representatives wants deep cuts to domestic spending as well as to U.S. support for Ukraine in its ongoing war against invading Russia. President Biden last week welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy to the White House after the two spoke at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Biden pledged continued and unwavering support to Ukraine.
The people of Ukraine are steeled for this struggle ahead. and the United States is going to continue to stand with you.
McCarthy left $300 million of funding for Ukraine in an embattled defense spending bill before the House of Representatives. It's something unlikely to endear his far-right flank.
I'll bet on Kevin McCarthy any day, and we certainly have time yet to go. But he's in a very difficult position because the holdouts keep saying to Kevin McCarthy, don't bring bipartisan bills to the floor. We don't want you to use Democrat votes to try to avert a shutdown. But they're using Democrat votes to try to cause a shutdown. I mean, these individuals, these Republican holdouts, are voting with Nancy Pelosi against Republican bills that have been brought to the floor.
McCarthy's party holds a slim majority in the House. Even as few as 5 Republican defectors are enough to derail any legislation the majority attempts to pass. Lawmakers who spent the weekend away from Washington returned Tuesday to try again to avert a government shutdown, which will happen at 12:01 a.m. October 1st if lawmakers fail to agree on even a short-term funding bill.
Bribery and conspiracy charges threaten the political future of one of the United States' most influential senators. Aaron Renan has a story from New Jersey.
New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez faces a series of federal corruption-related charges, among them accusations that he accepted bribes to enrich 3 businessmen and benefit the government of Egypt, while also helping to resolve legal issues faced by his wife's associates.
Special agents with the FBI executed search warrants on the residence and safe deposit box of Senator Menendez and Nadine Menendez in New Jersey. When they got there, they discovered approximately $500,000 of cash stuffed into envelopes and closets. Some of the cash was stuffed in the senator's jacket pockets. Agents also discovered a lot of gold.
Senator Menendez had previously faced corruption charges in 2017, but prosecutors dropped the case after jurors were unable to reach a verdict. The senator has vehemently denied the new indictment, but it comes as no surprise to residents of New Jersey.
I'm not surprised. A lot of collusion, and his wife is involved also, and this is his second corruption charge.
Not shocked at all, because since he got away with it before, why wouldn't he do it again? That's the typical politician approach. If you never get convicted, it's an invitation to keep doing what you did.
The senator says the charges are a political assault on his career. Forces behind the scenes have repeatedly attempted to silence my voice and dig my political grave. I am confident that this matter will be successfully resolved once all the facts are presented, and my fellow New Jerseyans will see this for what it is. Despite Menendez's denials, legal experts say the charges against him are serious.
It's a classic bribery scheme. The indictment charges Senator Menendez with 3 separate conspiracy counts. When combined, Senator Menendez faces a total statutory maximum prison term of 45 years imprisonment.
Kamenstein says, however, even if the senator is found guilty, the actual sentence may not end up being as harsh.
The court has tremendous leeway in fashioning a sentence for a defendant. So at the end of the day, Senator Menendez may be sentenced to something substantially less than 45 years if he is convicted.
In the wake of last week's indictment, the senator stepped down from his leadership role in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Former prosecutor and current law professor Bennett Gershman regards the indictment of a high-ranking sitting U.S. official as a testament to the robustness of the U.S. justice system.
My sense is that our judicial system, our system of law enforcement is still holding on pretty strongly. And I think the Menendez indictment shows that even though somebody feels they're all powerful and can never be held to consequences for their dishonesty and corruption, that's not the case. If Menendez can get prosecuted and convicted, anybody can. And will, even a former president.
Experts say it may be hard for Senator Menendez to survive the indictment politically. Just hours after it was unsealed Friday, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy called on his fellow Democrat to resign.
New U.S. sanctions announced on Friday will target an additional group of Haitians linked to gang violence that has destabilized the crisis-plagued Caribbean nation.
In an exclusive interview with VOA Friday, Barbara Feinstein, the U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Caribbean Affairs and Haiti, announced new sanctions targeting Haitians responsible for destabilization of the country.
Secretary Blinken today announced the designation of 5 more individuals for visa restrictions. And this is part of our broader policy of trying to promote accountability in Haiti for those individuals who are supporting gangs and destabilizing the situation.
In the meantime, in his speech before the UN General Assembly on Friday, Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry repeated his urgent appeal for a multinational force to help Haiti's national police combat gang violence.
Haitians' daily life is painful. That is why the Security Council, which has the power and the authority, must act urgently under Chapter 7 to authorize the deployment of a multinational mission to reestablish security comprised of police and military personnel to help us combat the gangs and establish order.
While Henry was meeting with foreign leaders on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York to discuss Haiti's security crisis, powerful gang leader Jimmy Cherizier hit the streets of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, to put him on notice.
Today we are launching a battle against Ariel Henry. As we previously said, we're asking Haitians to mobilize, join us in the streets, because the real fight against Ariel Henry will be fought with guns.
Haiti's security situation and its appeal for a multinational force to help combat the gangs was a central theme at the UN General Assembly this week. President Joe Biden urged the Security Council to act quickly.
I call on the Security Council to authorize this mission now. The people of Haiti cannot wait much longer.
Kenya has expressed willingness to lead the force, which will be comprised of police officers as well as some military personnel.
Kenya is ready to play its part in full and join with a coalition of other nations of goodwill, and there are many, as a great friend and true sibling of Haiti.
But in Port-au-Prince, human rights activist Rosie Auguste expressed trepidation.
There have been several missions deployed to Haiti in the past. We believe they have always left a bitter taste in our mouths after departing.
Auguste cited the cholera epidemic, summary executions, child rape, and sex trafficking, which were prevalent during the UN peacekeeping mission to Haiti in 2004. Despite condemnation from human rights organizations, the abuses went largely unpunished. In New York, Feinstein told VOA U.S. officials are recognizant of the errors of the past.
I think we are personally invested in its success and also in learning the lessons from those prior missions.
The U.S. aims to present a resolution authorizing the Kenya-led mission in Haiti as early as next week. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced Friday that the U.S. is providing Haiti with an additional $100 million in assistance for the Haitian National Police.
Europe is in danger of becoming reliant on China for batteries and fuel cells, with demand set to skyrocket in the coming years as the bloc tries to cut its carbon emissions, according to European Union report obtained by Reuters.
A European Union report obtained by Reuters warns that by 2030, Europe could become as dependent on China for lithium-ion batteries and fuel cells as it was on Russian energy before Moscow's invasion of Ukraine.
It is not too late, but I think they should act pretty fast. Because China is moving very fast in this sector. They are the world champions, and they are also trying to consolidate their take on raw materials elsewhere, for example, in Africa. It is important, in my opinion, to consolidate the cooperation between Europe and the United States on the innovation side, because this is the leading edge.
Europe is taking steps to develop its own battery ecosystem, such as the European Battery Alliance, which tries to stimulate investment, research and development. France opened its first electric car battery factory in May.
The aim is not for there to be only battery factories. We need to control the whole value chain. We're first working on the critical materials that we need to produce more of. that we need to find more of. We cannot be totally dependent on Asia for the supply of critical materials. Then we need to recycle the batteries.
China is investing heavily in sourcing raw materials such as cobalt, lithium and manganese. Beijing opened a $300 million lithium processing plant in Zimbabwe in July. The Democratic Republic of Congo is negotiating a new deal which would see Beijing invest billions of dollars in infrastructure in return for access to Kinshasa's vast cobalt and copper reserves.
Beijing is able to operate fully coordinated with state-owned enterprises, funders, so they provide funding as well, they provide infrastructures and the whole package. So this way they can move much faster than Europe, at least.
The race for minerals in Africa, Asia and Latin America is also an opportunity for the West to counter Beijing's influence, says Kusile.
Providing good examples and facilitating their development in broad senses, including education, is super important for the future. We cannot leave this to China.
The EU report warns that demand for batteries and fuel cells in cars and households will multiply up to 30 times the current level in the coming years.
Tens of thousands of people are expected to watch Pope Francis process through the streets and celebrate Mass in the French Mediterranean city of Marseille on Saturday.
Overlooking the Mediterranean, Pope Francis delivered a message of hope and compassion on the first day of his visit to Marseille. He paid homage to migrants who've lost their lives at sea and issued a call to Europe's leaders.
We can no longer watch the tragedy of shipwrecks caused by the cruel trafficking and the fanaticism of indifference. People who are at risk of drowning when abandoned on the waves must be rescued. It is a duty of humanity. It is a duty of civilization.
He decried what he described as the huge cemetery that is the Mediterranean Sea. It's estimated that more than 28,000 migrants have died since 2014 as they tried to reach European shores.
It was moving because as someone who was rescued at sea, I could never have imagined that I would have a chance to meet the Pope. I hope he will continue and that it will make others more aware of what's happening now.
The Mediterranean city is known for its diverse and multicultural population. At this migrant camp, the Pope's visit was cause for hope.
He didn't choose Marseille by chance. You know, Marseille is a city with a long history of migration. It's a real crossroads.
The Pope's visit comes as arrivals at the Italian island of Lampedusa surge. The Italian authorities have reiterated their plea for all European countries to do their part. France has said it would not accept any migrants coming from the island.
Nigerian unions are threatening to strike, demanding the reinstatement of fuel subsidies the government ended in May. The Nigerian Labour Congress, which represents hundreds of thousands of workers, is asking the government to reverse its decision or introduce measures that would help citizens cope with soaring food and transportation costs.
Pam Emmanuel opened his barbershop 12 years ago in his hometown in Central Plateau State. He relocated to Abuja a few years ago in a bid to expand his business. But recently, he says, he has been struggling to make a profit.
Since the government removed the fuel subsidy, the price of fuel has increased and everything in the market has also increased. So the only thing we can do is to meet up. So we have to increase our prices.
The Nigerian government had subsidized fuel prices for decades. In May, President Bola Tinubu shut down the program.
The first subsidy is gone.
That decision more than tripled the price of gas and sent food and transportation costs through the roof. The cost increase also made it expensive to run the generators that many Nigerian households and businesses depend on when the erratic power supply shuts off.
I'm just pleading the government to do something about it. They should look into it. First is the masses. not them themselves. So they should have conscience.
President Tinubu embarked on some of Nigeria's boldest reforms in decades to grow the country's struggling economy and address corruption. He also floated the national currency against the dollar and other global currencies to eliminate multiple exchange rates. But the naira has fallen to historic lows since then, and his policies are drawing strong criticism from Nigerian labor unions. The Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC), which represents hundreds of thousands of workers, wants authorities to revert to the previous status quo, review salaries for its members, and introduce cheaper, gas-powered mass transport systems to reduce workers' transportation costs. Last month, the NLC led thousands to the streets in protest, calling the government's policies anti-poor. This week, a meeting between the National Executive Council of the Workers' Union and government officials ended in a deadlock. 2 weeks ago, the NLC gave the government 2 weeks to reverse its policies. NLC spokesman Benson Upa says the deadline is Friday.
Subsidy service is not a burden to the nation. It is those who exploit the window of subsidy to create, it is those people that create the burden. And the president in his speech graciously acknowledged the existence of a cabal. But instead of dealing with that cabal, he chose to deal with us, the innocent, in fact the victims. If at the end of the 14 working day ultimatum, its lawful demands are not met, it will embark on an indefinite strike action. The NEC has now rescinded that decision.
Nigerian authorities are asking for more time to fix the problem.
I must say that our meeting was very robust and we had a very, very fruitful meeting. But at the end of the day, many of those items that we left are still for consideration.
The World Bank says Nigeria could save $5.1 billion this year from its economic reforms. At the same time, it warns that more than 7 million citizens could be pushed into poverty if the subsidy removal is not properly managed.
More than 150 failed products from around the world are on display at a new museum in Washington, D.C., but despite their premature demise, many paved the way for better, more successful innovations.
A chair inspired by the hula hoop was supposed to help you exercise while at the office, but simply made people dizzy. A bicycle made of plastic wobbled and flopped when in use.
Wow, she really chews!
And a doll designed to chew plastic food was also capable of nibbling children's fingers. These are just a few examples of the more than 150 failed products that are currently on display at the Museum of Failure in Washington. Samuel West is its founder.
It's products and services that people who invested money and resources into them had very high expectations that good things would happen, and things did not turn out the way they had planned.
The objects represent a range of industries, from disasters at sea to impractical, pricey, and dangerous modes of transport on land. West says some are downright senseless.
A face mask that gives your face electric shocks to make you look more beautiful. A golf club that you urinate into so that you don't have to go to the bathroom out when you play golf.
West, who's a psychologist by trade, says failure is important for progress. So part of the museum's goal is to destigmatize failure.
In the United States, it's a society obsessed with success. So failure is very sensitive, especially in the corporate world. So this is a big problem for organizations, because if you don't accept the fact that you fail, you will not be innovative and you will not be able to learn from your failures.
West points to companies with products that initially failed but later evolved to become great sensations. Video game giant Nintendo is one example.
They have failed spectacularly with different inventions One is called the power glove. It's a glove you put on to control the computer game. Complete failure. Another one was a 3D gaming console that you had to sit like this to look into,
which apparently could damage the eyesight of children if used for more than 10 or 15 minutes.
But Nintendo learned from these failures and created one of the most successful gaming consoles of all time, the Nintendo Wii.
Before leaving, visitors have a chance to share their own failures.
Most of the things that people write on the share your failure wall are things that they didn't do, as opposed to things that they did.
A sign, perhaps, that the subtle message of nothing ventured, nothing gained, even at the risk of failure, is getting through.
We've come to the end of our international news. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a break. We'll be back.
Bongosi egameni lelibandla letelkhetho nemingcele tinkundla ngingusihlalo walo libandla sihlanganyela nesive malangeni lamahle kuhalalisela ingwenyama inkosi yethu inkosi Mswati wesithathu minyakeni lamashumi lasihlanu nakuhlanu kanye nelive longana kundiphethe wethu ukuthi lo lingana nabo netinsuku tengwenyama letingu 55 nananathi sisive seMaswati sina leminyaka ilengu 55 sesikhululekile ngandiphethe. Siyabonga ke bongosi sisahalalisele makhosi ethu nelive ukuthi nebayitolo lekungibona lesithi te basebenta lelive makhosi ayitolo nesive seMaswati sonke sayitolo ngoba lokhu lesesifike lamhla siyasakukhanza sakuhala lesikuhalaliselako ngilokuqhamuka kibo lekubita ke ukuthi ke nathi siMaswati njengekukhonjwa indlela makhosi ngosi yelive siqhubekeni silibeke live libe ngiloko lekungona lesikukhanzile nathi nalokungcono Maswati silibandla lelikhetho nemingcele sisahalalisele makhosi nelive ngandiphethe sijinga siphinze futhi siwabongele makhosi ngemsebenzi losetulo eveni welikhetho sisidengcile tigaba tokuqala lebesikito nyalo ke sekuseleke sigaba lesesisetulo ke yokungisona sona ke lesisitawu siniketa iparlamente yethu isinikete futhi emabandla enkundla lekuba ubuchopho ke lobakhiwa induna tetinkundla lekungibona bosihlalo bese ke nabobuchopho bemiphakathi benkundla labakha lobuchopho lelibandla lenkundla lekungilona lelisebenzisana kanye neparlamente nahulumende welive leMaswati wonkana. Bongosi emalanga umuntu akandlulise lokuthi umhla ka-26 we-special voting bese ulandzela ke umhla ka-29 September walo likhetho lelukhulu lukhetho lwesibili lesongilona loluyi-final ngalawo magama amalangeni sikhutha lwandle sibongele live ebongosi bayethe wena waphakathi wena ungangezindaba Bose
ngeke ngikuvotele bese unginiketa 200 emalangeni hayi ngeke akungelula liphalishe liqiniso siyalifuna kepha kube kuyangami ngabe sawukhetha nababantu labatawuletha lushinjo balethe inguquko umuntu lotawuthi bantu labasha mango wakithi manifuna kuphila manifuna liphalishe naku lekufuna kwenye hayi ukuthi umuntu utasinika liphalishe utasinika masekangenile sitawusala sibe yini
Ezehle ushaya yona wena sibamvu labasha mhla ka29 asambeni siyowucedzela naku lesakucala siphume ngetinkhani siphelele simake sure ukuthi siyavota
umango wonke sambeni kuma secondary elections sikhethe nangumuntu wenhlitiyo yethu masingakhetha kahle singabe singcobile mngani
hayi laba sinike amapalishi bani labatasifundisa ukuthi lipalishi ulakha
kanjani uqisile mngani
yemngani amasambe Nkosi yami nayi nale khumbi yasemphakathi seyifikile
Umsakazo wetithombe Eswatini TV ehlangothini lebetindzaba umengemumo ngalesihlanu mhla tinge-27 kulesetu ithaselita lomsakazo titabe titsacitsisaka kutototine tifundza telive leSwatini totonke tikhungo tekuvotela tikuletsela konke lokutabe kwenteka elikhethweni elikhulu kanti indzaba itabe icale mhla tinge-26 kulesetulu esigabeni lakutabe kuvota khona labo labaniketwe imvumo yekuvota esigabeni lesithi special voting
kusukela ngesimbi yesikhombisa ekseni kude kuphume yona imiphumela libandla letindzaba litawube lifake likhala phansi licubungula liphindze libuya nato tinjengobe tinjalo likulethela bukhoma kumabonakudze wakho nasetinkundleni tekuchumana leti tindzaba telukhetfo lolukhulu lwa 2023 singete sasala nakwakhiwa live lethu.
We at Eswatini Television Authority are committed to observing the Eswatini Communication Commission's Broadcasting Code of Conduct.
Under the code, we are committed to broadcast news that is current, free from hate speech, accurate, balanced, and fair.
From politics to business, health, agriculture, courts, and global news, we bring you the latest updates as they happen, when they happen.
We cover all the sporting codes from the football pitch to the chessboards.
This is Eswatini TV News.
Sibuya ke netindzaba temidlalo lesibone kule mphela sonto. Sitaqala lapha ku MTN Premier League lapho khona sibonile iLovo istana yona iGreen Mamba on a 3-1 victory. Royal Leopard also did the same to Manzini Wanderers with the same score sa 3-1. Sibonile ke Denver Sundowns efaka umzaca lapha kuMoneni Pirates ngescore sa 2-0. Sitawubuka nabo English Premier League lapho khona Newcastle United say Dambe Sheffield United 8-0 to pile more misery on the winless Blades. Score leso master lesibe history but stuff like English Premier League ngisakwamukela nje ehlelweni asingeneti kwe MTN Premier League lapha kangwane sibone imidlalo la interesting kakhulu. Who would have thought Green Mamba would lose to iLovo?
Ngiyabonga Sifiso ngikuthoba lokho ngivusele umbukelo Eswatini TV ma-loyal viewers. Inhlito yami iyajabula Sifiso nakule ngu-anticipatile kule season kuthi sitawubona emaqembu hayi lamakhulu ashayela ngathi makhulu sibone lamakhulu astrugglisha kulamanye mid table sikubonile kule weekend le lesisuka kuyo kule mbela somvo le kwenteke timanga ikakhulukati labavikela inzebe ikhale phasi ku iLovo ngicabanga ukuthi labanenge babe surprised kodwa vele nawubuka ukuthi before the game dine mhlambe tindzaba letivelile ku camp yeGreen Mamba some of the players abe suspended asati lokuthi why but ngicabanga ukuthi for iLovo kuthola le result le against iGreen Mamba kubo a major boost. I doubt if but ayithola lenye result lenje as a season saqhubeka kodwa
defending champion
kodwa kungenteka le results ba boost banike amandla ukuthi nasidibana nalomunye lomkhulu sitamshaya kodwa lenye team Sifiso Rangers shaya Young Buffaloes and ngasho nababuya ko draw neMbabane Swallows iRangers enhlangano kuthi this team the way liyadlala ngayo against Mbabane Swallows isethe washaya ama teams naku vele ishaya ngibani Young Buffaloes kulukhuni kuyidla. In fact iYoung Buffaloes ikhala phasi kule game le first game in 30 something games
so liyawina
ingadliwa yafika iRangers yabashaya. So ngicabanga nakubo this result isho lokukhulu kakhulu for yena coach wayo iRangers Mthunzi a very good coach underrated but lo msebenzi lawentako kule team yeRangers yes kusekhona timvele kumele ukuthi ba improve kuto kodwa le result isho lokukhulu kubo.
Master utsinza indzaba ukuthi iLovo kuyibooste kakhulu kutayisita kuyimotivator for their next game which is interesting ngoba their next game is against the Young Buffaloes we just lost but the record yayo ngeke bese sijijela ngelfast it's still there it's a record so kufuna libe khwale lo valo iLovo but I think it's a confidence booster ukuthi bashaya iGreen Mamba kanjena nokuthi babone yona le Young Buffaloes labatawudlala nayo idliwa the same Young Buffaloes master let out nayidlala na iLovo sibonile ukuthi you just spoke about it but I think what's interesting for me kubuka iGreen Mamba which is going to play Mbabane Swallows on its next game
a very tough game very tough game legame leyo Sifiso nawubuka ukuthi lamaqembu lawa yes Mbabane Swallows ayidlali yona over the weekend ku MTN Premier League badlale iMomo Cup against Mbabane Highlanders bayiwina so ngicabanga ukuthi spirit kubo bataya ku next league game ba motivated kakhulu because kuwina iDerby the way labayiwina ngayo the goals la shayiwe lapha more especially the second goal lakhe Nunu ngicabanga ukuthi this Mbabane Derby yes I know ukuthi ema expectations
I was about to ask good about expectations did they really meet the expectations in terms of le derby lena siyathi ukuthi ifane Soweto derby
ngicabanga ukuthi Sifiso nawibuka le game excuse me nawibuka le game the goals the flair yes the fans
oh my god yeah that deserved a replay
Sizo lwethu Nunu nickname yakhe over the years ngicabanga ukuthi ukhulile ukhombise immaturity solo efika kuMbabane Swallows asuka kuma 20 akhona ukhombisile ukuthi kancane uyakhula as a player, simbonile athola ne call up ku national team lokuyi matches, but this game overall yes Mbabane Highlanders played very well, idlale kahle Mbabane Highlanders, ngilele ngihlale ngikhala ngako Mbabane Highlanders they need a reliable goal scorer. Umumvulo bathi nasebadlalile kahle then bese suyafika yena uyacedzisa lo msebenzi, but overall le derby ngicabanga ukuthi isikhombisile mina sisona ngibukele i derby ngikathe amagoli ngikathe the tactics gonge sifiso ngukatsile ku derby because this is the biggest game in the land.
And congratulations to both teams for giving us quite a display of a derby. Master, just briefly, I want us to look at the log standings for a Premier League. Royal Leopards sitting at the top. Who would have imagined Green Mamba sitting at that position after being defending champions, the winner tournament, Langaga? Green Mamba have a good start, but does this define what's batao bugakanjani kule season?
No. Still early. 2 games and nobo ukuthi game yabeqala vele the only point abalithola against Young Buffaloes, and Young Buffaloes balandzelana nabo. But i-Royal Leopard ngi-impressed ngayo. Baqala kudlala neZulu United bawina 1-0. Itolo bebadlala la Prince of Wales badlala nayo iManzini Wanderers bawina 3-1. Ngicabanga ukuthi ushilo ke coach wayo Edwin Matsebula ukuthi basengakadlali ngendlela labafise kudlala ngayo bona, but nawubuka the way labe ba attack ngayo, yes the first goal lakhe ngci Bongane wakenzimanzi ngicabanga ukuthi be mistake ya goalkeeper ushilo naye inyanga ahlophe ukuthi goalkeeper wabo balekelele ilekelele iRoyal Leopard ukuthi in fact the 2 goals, because even this goal goalkeeper yaphakama uyosave ibhola uyabuyisha umdlali ngebhola enhloko. Ngicabanga ukuthi a team lenjenge Manzini Wanderers lazamako kuyaka coach awadzingi lama mistakes la khona, but bakhonile ukuthi balithole igoal through yena Fabrice Mopina, a very good goal that shot through yena Fabrice Mopina. Ngicabanga ukuthi njoba ngisho ukuthi the two teams Royal Leopard iqale kahle 2 out of 2 against Manzini Wanderers and against Zulu United bahle etulo sicongweni. Then kune Ilovo Ilovo ina 4 points ba draw ba winner itolo, so ngicabanga ukuthi nakubo i major boost. Remember sifiso ngidawuhlala ngisho ngibakho umkhumbutana ngibukela ukuthi the first 10 games ngiwo latakutshela ukuthi uya relegatewa noma uyakhona ukubuya ucompete khona ka Premier League. Denver Sundowns nayo surprisingly the way leqale ngayo 4 points akusi bad start banzinisi bets nemadlenya siyathi ukuthi badlala igame inye bana 3 points, so the next game itawubuka ukuthi ingabe vele bekungasiyo ni fluke lendlela labaqale ngayo le season. Babona solo njengoba ngisho ukuthi badlala igame inye because this past weekend bebadlala yona imomo Rangers yakhala phasi game eqala against Mamono Solos, but bakhonile itolo kubuya against Young Buffalo, so ngicabanga nakubo match boost. Nsingizini no Spurs yaqala ngedraw neManzini Wanderers nayitolo idrawile neManzini Spurs, so ungabona lokuthi nabo akusiyo and ngidohlale ngisho until bashintshe indlela laba recruiter ngayo yona Insingizini no Spurs angeke baze ba compete 2 points ku 2 games akusiyo a good start for them. Young Buffaloes 1 point ku 2 games nabo ngicabanga ukuthi Young Buffaloes isikhombisile over the years ukuthi bayithimle kanjani, batawubuya batawubounce back. Green Mamba njoba sengishilo ukuthi ngeke uzucabanga ukuthi base already so ba count out because bama defending champions banama senior players, experienced players labanawo kule team le. Manzini Wanderers 1 point labalithola ku first game against Insingizini no Spurs. Ngicabanga ukuthi le game yitolo as much as iRoyal Leopard ayadlala ngcono kakhulu kunabo kodwa goalkeeper wabo ubendele phasi kule game le. Mbabana Highlanders yes badlala igame inye because bakhala phasi egamini ekuqala. Ngicabanga ukuthi nabo kusamele ukuthi babuye ba bounce back.
They do have a chance, Master, to bounce back as they are going to face Zulu United. In fact, those are the next attractions. Yona Mbabana Highlanders na Zulu United. Balanzelana so just ahead of each other by 1 point. In fact, they're at the same points. But ngibuka imadlenyana eMbabane Swallows, Master. Kuthe ngabe what will pan out lapho. Mbabane Swallows sitting comfortably with just one game played. If they win this next game, they obviously batonyuka babele do.
Ba compete nelephad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but kule game icala lo imentionile Mbabane Highlanders versus Zulu United. Imbabane Highlanders njengoba sengishilo ukuthi ikhale phasi ku derby but badlale kahle. Ngicabanga ukuthi kunetinve yes I know ukuthi coach Luvengo ukhale kakhulu nge refereeing but ngicabanga ukuthi nabo the finishing iyadzingeka kakhulu. Zulu United they were so unfortunate ukuthi bakhale phasi ku Royal Leopard egemini ekuqala that Friday last week Friday. So ngicabanga ukuthi igame yabo ne Mbabane Highlanders ngilenye game le letaba yinhle the captain Zulu United former player Mbabane Highlanders Smuti. So ngicabanga ukuthi itaba yinhle le game Sifiso yes bana 0 bobabili ma point 1 utawufuna ukuthi in fact munye kulaba labang2 utawuphuma nel point because if ba draw ba share 1-1 if ba win munye uthola 3 points.
Yeah. Master, it's going to be an interesting weekend indeed. I'm looking at some of the games. Lataulanzela Patkakulu Green Mamba and Mbabane Swallows. I think that's going to be the biggest one. I want us to go to South Africa. MTN 8, Wafa Wafa. Orlando Pirates losing to Stellenbosch.
Losing to Stellenbosch, but iqhubekile final Orlando Pirates for second successive year nangasho njalo bafika ku final yayo iMTN 8 bama defending champions by Calipas and iPirates ayika win kudo last 3 games, so kuneteam velexinger ukuthi batlungise building up kuyo ifinal yayo iMTN 8 but lokungcono lema positives ngilothi baqhubekile bayakhona ku final yayo iMTN 8 Mamelodi Sundowns versus Kaizer Chiefs on Saturday. Igame lena lincabanga ukuthi ya kuneng lolu kwavela kule game le both teams cishe adlala kahle
especially Kaizer Chiefs. I think for me watching that game Kaizer Chiefs ngilok convert otherwise the football
and labaning nale penalty lenganikwanga yona iChiefs Mamelodi Sundowns yakora through Peter Shalulile and the mistake ya Peterson and le mistake ya Peterson say mistake yesibili so lobadlala ne Sundowns because kuna igame na ya lebayidlala le lose 2-1 iChiefs kuyo kwaba igoal lakhe Peterson on goal yakhe because yafika kuye yangena ekhasi and even nange weekend phinze wenda iblunder waphasela wathi uyaclearisha yafika Peter Shalulile wakhona ukuthi akore ngicaba ukuthi yena I know ukuthi balandzeli beChiefs bafuna abasekho patient because sesitse lesikhathi bangawini inkomishi so kukhala phasi kuMamelodi Sundowns baphuma kuMTN 8 kungenteka kuphinze kube another drought for yona team lenjenge Chiefs invo lengazanga seyikenteke emlandweni wabo ukuthi bangihamba 8 ama seasons bangaphakamisi lutho.
Yeah, there's certainly a dark cloud lapha bangikhombutha nendlela yendeka Chelsea at the moment. There's a dark cloud lapha Chelsea, but sisangana kuyo English Premier League, Master. Really want to hear a good say for you, which was the best game. Sheffield United losing 8-0 to Newcastle United. Newcastle obviously making history there, becoming the first team ever to have 8 different players score a magoli, going 8-0. United won their desperate win. They needed that win. Another good game. Chelsea's dark cloud, frustrating me as a Chelsea fan. Man City 6 out of 6, lossless win to start the league. Which one for you is more impressive?
I think to be fair, go Newcastle ngiyokodwa ngibe impressed ngendlela this team ledlale ngayo ukuthi ngaba nama different scorers ku 8 amagoli and towards the game bese ngithandazela ukuthi lokungenani Isaac alithole but nasekusele imizuzu lemithathu ubese yalithola yena Isaac ngicabanga ukuthi idlale kahle le team yena Eddie Howe kancane uyabakhombisa bamvu ukuthi yini la iphethe young English coach loyise yona iNewcastle ku Champions League after a very long time engekho ku Champions League nakunyalo uyabuya away Sifiso bamvu aba understand ukuthi nawudlala away kulukhuni kanganani kuwina angikhulumi ke kuwina nga 8 wemagoli ushaye 8 kuSheffield United so ngicabanga ukuthi le game lena kube igame lekahle but even Everton kuwina away ku Brentford yes Manchester City won ema defending champions won 2-0 against Nottingham Forest lengicabanga ukuthi iManchester City first 20 minutes already bese ivele ina 2 goals in fact first 15 minutes because Foden ukorile 7 minutes Haaland wakora 14 but kule game le Rodri uthole I red card and angeke aze abe khona ku trip le Emirates so it's up to Arsenal now because kule game le akekho Rodri akekho Kevin De Bruyne last season bekuna Gundogan those 3 players abekho so this is a chance here Arsenal uthi ishaye iManchester City.
Arsenal will be home I believe.
Yes itabe sekhaya but Arsenal ekhaya iya consider kakhulu emagoli so ungete wathi but nje for iCity ukuthi ngawena le game le yes Manchester United away ku Burnley iwinile 1-0 ngeligoli lakhe Bruno Fernandes and ngicabanga so for company coach we Burnley the way le team ledlala ngayo ngasho ukuthi ude inhlanhla yes kule game bekangekho Layla Foster wase South Africa lo thola red card ku previous game so ngicabanga overall sibonile amagoli amahle kule game le
Fulham. Before we move on, Manchester United's performance just briefly the team's performance are you happy with the goalkeeper? There's been a lot of criticism around the goalkeeper and just how the team is playing.
Onana nginema mixed feelings Sifiso ngaye Onana ngiyamthanda as a goalkeeper as an African but ngicabanga ukuthi performance yakhe ku Manchester United ayikabi nginayi lesayibona Champions League last season ku Inter Milan nginga contributor ke lokho timvo ama factors incumbi kuthi why Onana angaperform kahle because I defense yayo iManchester United ayikho solid iyashintsha namhla kubahla badlalisa bo events kule game lena nje udlalile events kulenye game bangena bana Maguire uDamkhanza Bolindelof so ngicabanga ukuthi dinenge le team letenda ukuthi yona Manchester United.
Your friend Patiza says we haven't given him enough time to really give him a fair assessment asasimbone a few more games in the defense itilungise kancane. Okay those are the results from this weekend with English Premier League. What are our log standings looking like? Sheffield United there Msile master I guess for Newcastle to get that win, not too surprised.
Nawubuka le ndlela lemengayo Sheffield United joba usho ukuthi isemsileni and mayingashintshi kungenteka le log igcine ime kanje if Sheffield United ingayitholi iwin early yes I know ukuthi ngathi Everton this year if bangashintshi into batawehla but kungenteka le table ligcina lime kanje lengetulu Manchester City Liverpool ibuyile iya compete nabo bawinile itolo Brighton solo iyachubeka nekudlala kahle Sifiso Spurs iHletic number 4 balingane neArsenal and bebadlala itolo North London derby the biggest game kule weekend elidlaliwe webadraw 2-2 Son washaya 2 goals ku Spurs ngala koba ne on goal Phinzela Shang Mbukayo Saka ngicabanga ukuthi iArsenal iSpurs itolo zidlale kahle Emirates yes Arsenal kwendekile lawo mistake indekile and ne injury yakhe Declan Rice half time lende ukuthi Spurs bese sesiyabuya igame but overall sibone amagame igame inye kuphela ngeweekend lebebede ligoli igame ye Fulham so ngicabanga ukuthi overall sibone amagames lamahle kakhulu kuyo English Premier League.
Real Madrid quickly La Liga we have less than a minute master. Real Madrid's loss 3-1 loss. What a painful loss master for Real Madrid ngoba I guess for them, looking at how Barcelona is playing, and obviously the second team on the log as well is playing quite well, Girona. But for Real Madrid, that was a bad loss.
Kakhulu. Sifiso ngicabanga iReal Madrid ngayisummarize nje isizini yabo singenteka sikubonela throughout the season bebamdzinga Harry Kane striker number 9 bebamdzinga Harry Kane bamdzinga Mbappe kuze batawubuya bacompete babengile Real Madrid. Yes Barcelona ibuyele esicongweni after bakhona ukuthi bawine ngeweekend so ngicabanga ukuthi itawuchubeka kube Real Madrid Barcelona featuring Atletico but Atletico this season bawashaya amagoli I'm impressed ngaye yena Diego Simeone.
Yeah, Barcelona matches played 6, won 5, drew 1, 0 losses, 16 points at the top. Real Madrid, 6 games played, won 5, lost 1. It's just 1 loss. That is the separator. So let's have more hope for Real Madrid. But I hear what you're saying. They definitely need a striker desperately. So, Master, we've come to the end of the program. Well, thank you for staying with us.
Ibandla letelukhetfo nemingcele Elections and Boundaries Commission bathi sasive kutsi kuvota ngalokukhetsekile special voting kutawuba mhla tingemashumi-26 kulesetulu 26 September 2023. Kanti lukhetfo lolukhulu lona lutawubanjwa